Hi, I'm Natalie.
And I am Phil, and this is Our Daily Faith.
Today we wanted to talk a little bit about how to stop sibling fighting. Okay, we don't have all the answers, but here's a little story. Last year, I was coming out of almost 2 years of postpartum depression, and I kind of looked around at my family and I realized that everyone seemed to be fighting a lot. There didn't seem to be a whole lot of peace in our house, and there's a lot of different reasons, but my postpartum depression was a huge part of why. It was kind of the fallout from that. And so I thought, I don't want to live like this. I want to change this, but I don't know how. And so I felt like God really answered my prayer. I listened to the Mom Conference in October, which is a really great conference that's totally online. There was a speaker on, and her name was Dr. Laura Markham. And she wrote two books. One book is Happy Parent, Happy Child, and then Happy Parent, Happy Siblings. And I bought both of them on Audible and listened to them both. Her talk was on how to manage your own emotions and help your children to manage their own emotions. And that clicked with me because at the time, our then 5-year-old was having regular outbursts. Like, she just seemed to be very emotionally volatile. Her parenting style is not going to fit everybody, but it really fit me and how I wanted to parent. It clicked with me. It comes from kind of a servant leadership angle where it encourages you to look at yourself as a parent and look at the behavior that you're modeling first and foremost, and then gives you tips with helping to coach your kids through their own emotions and feelings, with the aim of developing emotionally healthy children who are able to express themselves and have healthy self-esteem, healthy boundaries. We really liked her approach for our family. She recommended starting with Happy Parent, Happy Child if you hadn't listened to it at all beforehand. And that book talked a lot about how to manage your own emotions as a parent, and I realized I was definitely falling into that category of not modeling good emotional management on my own. So I would say the top 3 tips from her books that we have implemented and continue to use today. Number 1,
special time.
We think it should be called magic time because it really is like magic with our kids. What is special time? So special time is the child gets to choose what you do for special time. And for the parent, you are very present. You're very engaged in what they're doing.
Well, for us, what it looks like is after we get them ready for bed, we spend ideally 15 minutes right before bed, one-on-one time. And then after the 15 minutes is up, we switch kids. We have 2 kids.
So yeah, so you start with Caleb, and I start with Elena, and then after 15 minutes we switch, and I do one-on-one time with Caleb, and you do one-on-one time with Elena. And we found that the kids, it decreases competition between the kids because they know at the end of the day they're going to get this uninterrupted quality time with mom and with dad. And just overall they are so much more cooperative and happy when we started doing it. And when we stopped doing it, within a couple of days, we noticed a definite, absolute difference. They are less cooperative, more argumentative.
More butting heads with each other.
And with us, and are just a lot more challenging. Tip number 2 is to encourage cooperation, not competition.
This was huge. Like, our kids are super competitive. Like,
naturally. I don't know where they get that from.
So our kids, you know, they need to be the first one up the stairs, the first one to get their orange juice, the first one to wash their hands, the first one in the car. Like, they are super competitive with each other. And that creates a lot of tension between them at certain parts of the day.
And we struggle with that, and they still struggle with that. We would only be encouraging if let's say we're trying to get out the door and we'd say, let's see who can put their shoes on first. That only encouraged the competition. So instead, we're saying, let's see if we can all get our shoes on together and get out the door as fast as we can. Or we team them up against us. Can you both get your shoes on before mommy gets her shoes on? And that works really well.
Because then they start working together.
And we do lots of intentional losing on that front.
Elena came to me once and she said, "Daddy, you're always losing." Tip number 3, emotion coaching.
Dr. Laura Markham made the point that we as human beings don't innately know how to resolve arguments. And from watching my kids, I tend to agree that. Some people like to leave their kids alone and see if they can figure it out. And there is, to a certain extent, I think, some validity in kind of allowing them to explore a little bit. With our kids, it wasn't working. They were constantly erupting into fighting. So instead, when I'd see an argument starting to brew, I'd step in and start emotion coaching them. So first of all, whenever they weren't having an argument, I talked about peace and what peace is and how we want a peaceful family. And then we labeled one of our steps at the bottom of the stairs, peace step. And so if they're arguing, then we might need to go to the peace step. It's not a time out though, or a time in. We all go, we sit there together and we're gonna work it out. And we're not gonna leave the peace step until we work it out. And then I start coaching them through, Caleb, how are you feeling? At the time he was 2, and so he couldn't articulate necessarily how he was feeling, but I could see he was feeling upset, angry, sad, frustrated. So I'd say, Caleb, say, I am feeling frustrated. And he would repeat it after me. And then I would coach Alina through the same thing. And then I'd say, what can you guys do to resolve this argument? How can we make peace? We have found it has worked so well. Our kids are so much closer today than they were. We're still struggling as they're growing and developing. We're having to change our style and coach them through increasingly complex emotions. Overall, it has made a big difference. Not that our kids don't fight at all. They definitely fight, but we feel like we are
making lots of progress.
Yes.
One of the additional layers that we've added on top of that is that I started using this visual of the bridge. When they're fighting, the bridge has broken and that they need to repair the bridge.
It's a relationship bridge.
Yeah, and they really enjoy that. At least our kids do.
I know, you came up with that, like they were fighting and you just came up with that one night, top of your head kind of thing. And they grabbed onto it. Like they were fighting then another day and then they brought up the bridge. Oh, the bridge is broken. It was a visual picture for them that represented this
disconnect in their relationship.
How a relationship is doing, whether it's healthy or not, is a little bit abstract. It was a way to make that more visual, more tangible, more physical for them. And they grabbed onto that and really liked that.
So if you like this video, like it.
Hit the subscribe button to follow along more on our family's journey. And if your kids are fighting, have you found anything that's worked?
Do you have any resources that you recommend?
For sibling rivalry.